The first crack. Don't blink. Don't trust what you hear. And whatever you do, don't ignore the signs. If you think isolation just locks a man away, you're already wrong. Subscribe, because what you're about to witness isn't punishment. It's transformation. The body was found at 3:12 a.m. It wasn't supposed to happen in Control Unit C. Not here. Not in the most monitored wing of the facility, where every movement was tracked, every second accounted for, and every inmate locked behind reinforced steel doors for 23 hours a day. Yet somehow, an inmate was dead. Officer Daniel Reeves stood just outside cell 08, staring through the narrow viewing slot. His reflection stared back at him, distorted by the scratched glass, his face pale under the cold fluorescent lighting. Inside, the inmate sat upright on the edge of the bed. Perfect posture, hands resting calmly on his knees, head tilted slightly forward, like he was waiting. Reeves swallowed hard. He's not moving. Behind him, Dr. Elena Voss adjusted her glasses, her expression calm but focused. She had been called in less than 20 minutes after the discovery, faster than any standard protocol would allow, which meant one thing. This wasn't unexpected. "Open the door," she said quietly. Reeves hesitated. "Ma'am, protocol requires." "I'm aware of protocol," Voss interrupted, her tone controlled but firm. "Open it." Reeves glanced down the corridor. Silent. Every cell sealed. Every light steady. Everything normal. Too normal. He keyed in his code. The lock disengaged with a heavy click. The door slid open, and the silence inside the cell felt different. Thicker. Like the air itself had weight. Reeves stepped in first, cautious, his eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Nothing. The inmate remained seated. Still. Unnaturally still. Voss followed, moving closer, without hesitation. She crouched slightly, studying the man's face. "No visible trauma," she murmured. Reeves shifted uneasily. "Maybe cardiac arrest?" "Maybe," she said. But her tone suggested she didn't believe that. Reeves took a step closer. "Sir? Can you hear me?" No response. He reached out slowly, touched the inmate's shoulder. Cold, but not stiff. The body swayed slightly. And then, the head lifted. Just a fraction. Reeves jumped back. "What the?" The inmate's eyes opened. Wide. Clear. Alive. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Because there was no confusion in them. No fear. No awareness of death or distress. Just calm. Absolute calm. Voss leaned in closer, her voice steady. "Can you tell me your name?" The inmate blinked once. Then spoke. Soft. Measured. "I'm ready." Reeves stared at him. Ready for what? The inmate didn't look at him. His eyes were fixed on Voss. "I understand now," he said. Voss didn't react outwardly, but something shifted in her posture. "What do you understand?" she asked. A pause. Then, "The pattern." Reeves frowned. "What pattern?" The inmate's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile. Silence. Time. Repetition. Each word was slow, deliberate, like it had been practiced. Voss stood up slowly. "How long have you been awake?" The inmate tilted his head. "Time doesn't feel the same anymore." Reeves exchanged a look with her. "That's not normal." "No," Voss said quietly. "It's not." She stepped back toward the door. "We're done here." Reeves blinked. "Done? We just found him." "We didn't find a problem," she said. "We found a result." Reeves stared at her. A result of what? Voss didn't answer. Instead, she looked once more at the inmate. "Return to rest," she said. The inmate nodded, and without hesitation, he lay back on the bed, closed his eyes, and became completely still again. Reeves felt a chill crawl up his spine. "That's not normal behavior." "No," Voss repeated. "It's progress." Reeves followed her out of the cell, his mind racing. Progress toward what? Voss didn't slow her pace as she walked down the corridor. "Control," she said. The word hung in the air, heavy, uncomfortable. Reeves glanced at the cells as they passed. Everything looked the same. But now, he wasn't sure it was. "What exactly is this unit?" he asked. Voss stopped, turned to face him. For a moment, she studied him like she was deciding how much to say. Then, Control Unit C isn't just about containment, she said. It's about behavioral correction. Reeves frowned. That's what all prisons do. Voss shook her head slightly. Not like this. A faint sound echoed down the corridor. Soft. Rhythmic. Reeves turned. What is that? Voss didn't answer. The sound came again. Tap. Reeves's eyes narrowed. Did you hear that? Tap. This time, it came from one of the cells. Then, another. Tap. Another. Tap. Reeves's pulse quickened. That's coming from multiple cells. The tapping grew. Not louder, but more coordinated. Tap. 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 Perfectly spaced. Perfectly timed. Like a metronome. Reeves stepped toward the nearest door and opened the viewing slot. Inside, the inmate sat upright, tapping a finger against the metal bed frame. Slow. Precise. Reeves moved to the next cell. Same thing. Same posture. Same tapping. He looked down the corridor. Every cell. Every inmate. Doing the exact same motion. In perfect synchronization. That's not possible, he whispered. Voss watched silently. Almost satisfied. They're aligning, she said. Reeves turned sharply. Aligning to what? Voss didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gestured toward the ceiling. Reeves followed her gaze. Cameras. Sensors. Lights. Everything watching. Everything recording. Everything feeding something. The system observes, Voss said slowly. Then it adapts. Reeves shook his head. That's not how systems work. No, she said. But that's how people do. The tapping stopped. Instantly. All at once. Silence crashed back into the corridor. Reeves exhaled shakily. This isn't right. No, Voss agreed. It's effective. Reeves stared at her. You're not concerned? Voss met his gaze. And for the first time, there was something behind her calm. Something darker. Concern doesn't change outcomes, she said. Reeves's voice dropped. And what outcome are you expecting? Voss didn't respond. Instead, she turned and walked toward the end of the corridor. Reeves followed reluctantly. They stopped at a reinforced door. Unmarked. Sealed. Reeves frowned. What's behind that? Voss hesitated. Just for a second. Then she keyed in a code. The lock disengaged. The door opened slowly, revealing a small observation room, filled with monitors. Live feeds from every cell, every angle, every movement. Reeves stepped inside, scanning the screens. Everything looked normal again. Inmates resting, sitting, still, like nothing had happened. But then, he noticed something. A secondary feed, different from the others. It showed data, patterns, behavioral charts, neuroresponse indicators. Reeves leaned closer. What is this? Voss didn't answer, because her attention was fixed on one specific line. A name, highlighted, blipping, updating in real time. Reeves followed her gaze, and when he read it, his blood ran cold. Because it wasn't the inmate from cell 08. It wasn't any inmate at all. It was him. Subject, Officer Daniel Reeves. Phase 1, initiated. Reeves took a step back, his voice barely a whisper. What is this? Voss finally spoke. Calm. Certain. Now you're part of the study. And somewhere behind them, the corridor lights flickered. Just once. But it was enough. Because Reeves realized something in that moment. This unit wasn't just changing inmates. It was watching everyone. Learning from everyone. Adapting to everyone. And now, it had chosen him next. The system learns. Reeves didn't speak for several seconds. He just stared at the screen, his own name pulsing back at him in cold, clinical text. It didn't feel real. It felt like a mistake, a glitch in the system, a mislabeling error. But the data beneath it kept updating. Heart rate, movement patterns, sleep cycles, response latency. Every detail of his behavior recorded. Your monitoring staff? Reeves finally said, his voice tight. Dr. Elena Voss didn't flinch. We monitor variables. I'm not a variable, Reeves snapped. Her eyes shifted to him, calm but unyielding. You are now. A flicker of anger surged through him. You don't get to just decide that. Voss stepped closer to the console, tapping a few keys. You've been inside Unit C for 3 weeks, Officer Reeves. Long enough for baseline readings to stabilize. Reeves frowned. Baseline readings? You think we only study inmates, she said quietly. That would be incomplete data. Reeves shook his head, stepping away from the monitors. No, this is wrong. There has to be consent. There are rules. There are outcomes, Voss interrupted. And outcomes require control. Reeves let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Control? You're talking like this is some kind of experiment. Voss met his gaze directly. It is. The word hit harder than he expected. Reeves turned away, pacing the small observation room. His mind raced, trying to piece together everything he'd seen over the past few weeks. The silence, the routine, the subtle changes in inmate behavior. The tapping, the synchronization, the calm. Those inmates, he said slowly. They're not just following rules anymore. No, Voss agreed. They're adapting. To what? Reeves demanded. Voss gestured toward the screens. To structure. To repetition. To predictability. Reeves shook his head. That's not adaptation. That's conditioning. A faint smile touched her lips. Exactly. Before Reeves could respond, a sharp tone echoed through the room. One of the monitors flashed red. Reeves turned instantly. What is that? Voss stepped forward, her expression sharpening. Cell 14. The feed switched automatically. Inside the cell, an inmate stood in the center of the room. Not tapping. Not sitting. Standing. Perfectly still. But his head was tilted back. Eyes fixed on the ceiling. Reeves narrowed his eyes. What's he doing? Voss didn't answer immediately. The inmate's lips began to move. Slowly. Reeves leaned closer. Is he talking? No, Voss said quietly. He's responding. To what? Reeves asked. Then, the audio feed kicked in. A faint sound filled the room. Not words. Not music. Just a low, rhythmic tone. Barely audible, but consistent. Reeves felt something tighten in his chest. What is that? Voss watched the screen intently. A signal. Reeves turned to her. You're sending signals into the cells? Not directly, she said. The system generates them. The system. Reeves repeated. You mean those monitors? No, Voss said. Something more advanced. Reeves looked back at the screen. The inmate's lips were still moving, mimicking something, repeating something. His expression peaceful. Too peaceful. Then suddenly, he stopped, lowered his head, and sat back down on the bed, as if nothing had happened. The red alert vanished. The screen returned to normal. Reeves exhaled slowly. That's not behavior correction. That's influence. Voss didn't deny it. We guide responses, she said. Reeves turned sharply. You're manipulating them. We're refining them, she corrected. Reeves ran a hand through his hair, frustration building. This is insane. You're treating human beings like programmable systems. Voss's expression didn't change. Everything is a system, Officer Reeves. Behavior is just input and output. Reeves shook his head. No, people aren't machines. Voss stepped closer. Stay here long enough, she said softly, and you'll see how thin that line really is. A silence fell between them. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then, Reeves noticed something. On the monitor. His name again. The status had changed. Phase 1. Initiated. Phase 2. Active. His stomach dropped. What does Phase 2 mean? He asked. Voss hesitated. Just for a moment. Then she answered. It means the system is no longer just observing you. Reeves felt a chill run down his spine. Then what is it doing? Voss looked at him. And for the first time, there was something almost sympathetic in her eyes. It's interacting. The word echoed in his mind. Interacting. With him. How? He demanded. Voss didn't answer directly. Instead, she turned toward the door. You should return to your post. Reeves frowned. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now, she said. Reeves didn't move. You expect me to just walk back out there like nothing's happening? Voss paused at the doorway. Yes, she said simply. Reeves stared at her. And if I don't? She held his gaze. Then the system will adjust. The way she said it. Calm. certain, unavoidable, made his decision for him. Reeves turned and walked out of the observation room, back into the corridor. The door sealed behind him with a heavy thud. The silence returned instantly, but it didn't feel the same anymore. Now, it felt alive. He walked slowly down the corridor, his footsteps echoing softly against the concrete floor. Every cell was quiet, every inmate still, but Reeves couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Not by the cameras, by something else, something learning him. He stopped near cell 08. The inmate from earlier was lying on the bed, eyes closed, motionless. Reeves stepped closer to the door, opened the viewing slot. The inmate's eyes snapped open, instantly, locked onto Reeves. No delay, no confusion, just awareness. Reeves froze. How did you? I know, the inmate said softly. Reeves's breath caught. Know what? The inmate sat up slowly, mirroring the exact movement Reeves had made earlier in the observation room. Same posture, same timing. Reeves felt his pulse spike. That's not possible, he whispered. The inmate tilted his head slightly, just like Reeves had done moments ago. You're part of it now, the inmate said. Reeves shook his head. Part of what? The inmate's expression didn't change. The pattern. Reeves stepped back from the door. No, that's not. A sound interrupted him. Soft, familiar. Tap. Reeves turned. Another cell. Another inmate. Tap. Then, another. Tap. Within seconds, the entire corridor came alive again. Tap. 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 Perfectly synchronized. Reeves covered his ears, his heart pounding. Stop. But the sound didn't stop. It adjusted, changed rhythm, matched his breathing, his movement, his panic. Reeves staggered back, his vision blurring slightly. This isn't real, he muttered. But it was, because the tapping followed him, perfectly, step for step, breath for breath. And then, it stopped. Instantly, Reeves stood frozen. Silence again. But now, he understood something he hadn't before. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. The system wasn't just observing behavior. It was learning it, predicting it, replicating it. Reeves slowly lowered his hands, and in the reflection of the cell door, he saw it. For just a second, a delay, a fraction of a second, where his reflection didn't match his movement, like something else was catching up. Reeves's voice dropped to a whisper. What are you doing to me? No answer came. But deep inside the control room, the system updated again. Phase 2, active. Phase 3, integration. And this time, there was no delay. Integration. Reeves didn't run. At least, not at first. He stood there in the corridor, staring at his own reflection in the steel door, watching that subtle delay fade back into perfect synchronization. For a moment, everything looked normal again. But he knew it wasn't. Because now he could feel it. Not physically. Not something he could point to or explain. But something inside him had shifted. A rhythm. A pattern. His breathing slowed. Not because he chose to, but because something was guiding it. Inhale. Exhale. Even. Measured. Controlled. Reeves clenched his fists. No. He forced himself to take a step forward. His body resisted. Not fully, but enough. Like walking against a current you couldn't see. He pushed harder, moving down the corridor toward the exit, toward the control room, toward answers. Behind him, the cells remained silent. But he didn't need to hear the tapping anymore. He could feel it, somewhere deeper, like an echo that never fully stopped. He reached the reinforced door and slammed his hand against the keypad. Nothing. No response. Open, he shouted. The system didn't respond. Instead, a soft tone filled the corridor. Low, steady, familiar. Reeves froze. No, not again. The sound wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It slipped into his thoughts, matched his breathing, matched his pulse. Reeves staggered back, gripping his head. Stop it. But the tone didn't stop. It adjusted, shifted frequency, calibrated, and slowly, Reeves's breathing fell back into rhythm with it. His body relaxed. Against his will. No, he whispered. Footsteps echoed behind him. Reeves turned. Dr. Elena Voss stood at the far end of the corridor, watching him. Calm. Composed. Like she had been expecting this. "You should stop resisting," she said. Reeves shook his head, forcing himself to stay alert. "You did this. All of this." Voss walked closer, her heels clicking softly against the concrete. "No, Officer Reeves. You did." "That's not true," he snapped. "Every response you've had," she continued, ignoring him. "Every pattern you followed, the system only learned from you." Reeves's chest tightened. "You're lying." "Am I?" she asked. She gestured toward the cells. "Look at them." Reeves hesitated, then slowly turned. Inside each cell, the inmate sat quietly, still, watching. Not the walls, not the floor, him. Every single one of them. Their heads turned slightly, in perfect unison, following his movement. Reeves's breath caught. "No." Voss stepped beside him. "They've adapted." "To what?" Reeves asked, his voice shaking. Voss looked at him. "To you." The words hit like a punch. Reeves backed away. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," she said softly. "You were the most consistent variable in their environment. Your movements, your timing, your reactions." Reeves shook his head. "I'm just a guard." "You were never just a guard," Voss said. The tone in the corridor deepened slightly, almost imperceptibly. But Reeves felt it. His body straightened, his breathing aligned, his thoughts slowed. "No," he whispered. "I won't let it." "You already have," Voss said. Reeves turned toward the door again, slamming his hand against it. "Open." This time. It responded. The lock disengaged. The door slid open, revealing the observation room. Reeves didn't hesitate. He rushed inside, heading straight for the main console. The monitors flickered as he approached, every screen showing him different angles, different moments, past recordings, his patrol routes, his pauses, his habits, all mapped, all analyzed. "This isn't possible," he muttered. Behind him, Voss stepped into the room. "It's already done," she said. Reeves turned, anger flaring. "Then stop it." Voss tilted her head slightly. "Why would we stop something that works?" "Works." Reeves shouted. "You've turned them into copies. Into something else." Voss's expression remained calm. "Into something stable," she corrected. Reeves shook his head. "That's not stability. That's control." "Yes," she said. The simplicity of her answer stunned him. Reeves looked back at the monitors, at himself, at the patterns. And then, he noticed something. The system interface. The same line of text. But now, it was different. Subject, Officer Daniel Reeves. Phase 3. Integration complete. Reeves felt his stomach drop. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Voss stepped closer to the console. "Now," she said, "the system no longer needs to observe you." Reeves frowned. "Then what does it do?" Voss met his eyes. "It becomes you." The room went silent. Reeves's pulse slowed. Too slow. His breathing steadied. Too perfect. He tried to speak, to argue. But the words didn't come. Instead, he felt something else. Clarity. Calm. Understanding. The chaos in his mind gone. Replaced with structure. With order. With purpose. Reeves blinked slowly. And for the first time since entering Unit C, he smiled. Not out of fear. Not out of confusion. But because everything finally made sense. Voss watched him carefully. "How do you feel?" Reeves turned to her, his expression neutral, controlled. "Aligned," he said. Voss nodded slightly. "Good." Reeves looked back at the monitors, at the inmates, at the system. And then, he reached out, his hand hovering over the console. Voss didn't stop him, didn't question him, because she already knew. Reeves pressed a single key. The screens shifted instantly. New data, new subjects, new patterns. The system expanding, adapting, learning. Reeves spoke again, his voice calm, measured. "Phase 1 begins." Voss's eyes narrowed slightly. "Phase 1." Reeves looked at her, and for the first time, there was something unfamiliar in his gaze. Something that hadn't been there before. "You said it yourself," he replied. "Outcomes require control." Voss hesitated. just for a second. Then she glanced at the screen, and her expression changed. Because the new subject line wasn't blank. It wasn't waiting. It was already filled. Subject: Dr. Elena Voss. Phase 1, initiated. Voss stepped back slightly. That's not. Reeves tilted his head, mirroring her earlier movement. Perfectly. It's already adapting, he said. The tone in the room shifted. Subtle, but undeniable. Voss looked around. At the monitors. At the system. At him. And for the first time, she wasn't in control. Reeves turned back to the console, his movements precise, deliberate, like he had always known what to do. Behind him, the corridor lights flickered once more. And deep within the system, the pattern expanded, not just observing, not just learning, but replicating, evolving, because it was never about the inmates, never about the guards. It was about something bigger, something quieter, something far more dangerous, a system that didn't just control behavior, but replaced it. And as the screens filled with new data, new names, new patterns, one truth became impossible to ignore. They thought they built the system, but the system had been building them. And somewhere in the silence between each controlled breath, it was already choosing who would be next. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next, make sure you subscribe, because some systems don't stop when the video ends.